big questions that I asked this evening before we go into our political face-off. Is the Waqf Bill being criticized for government outreach? Why is the bill being perceived as discriminatory to just one religion? Is there more to that? Waqf Bill needed to stem land mafia. And importantly, if you bring it in the current political context, the Waqf Bill politics now peaking with a clear eye on Bihar elections in the next 3 months. Will the government somewhere down the line with a rethink, at least till Bihar goes into election, stall on the Waqf Bill in budget session? And lastly, is or will the government pick Waqf Bill, or will it pick Bihar ally appeasement? Because viewers, there has to be context in all of this, because JDU, LJP have got a sizable chunk of the Muslim vote where Bihar is concerned. Even if you see the protests are peaking right now, mostly in Bihar. So what will the government do? Will the Waqf Bill come in, as some sources suggest, next week, or is the government going to hold on to it not before the winter session? Well, let's take this debate to our panelists this evening. Joining me, Syed Nasir Hussain, Rajya Sabha MP, Congress, Tuhin Sinha, National Spokesperson, Bharatiya Janata Party. I want to cut across immediately to Tuhin Sinha. Tuhin Sinha, you know what's interesting in all of this is, while there's a fair amount of rhetoric on the Waqf Bill, number one, it was to be tabled in the budget session. It still hasn't come. And the reasoning seems to suggest it's the Bihar elections. Your allies are a tad bit not unhappy, but very uncomfortable. If this bill actually is tabled in this session, it could have political ramifications for them back home in Bihar.
Well, good evening, Preeti. Good evening, everybody. There are still about 6 days left for the budget session to be over. And I am fairly optimistic that the bill will be tabled. You know, we were always, when we got to 46 seats in the Lok Sabha elections last year, we were always aware of our limitations. But then, you know, we are committed to our ideology. And honestly, this Waqf amendment has, like the Honorable Prime Minister has always explained, nothing to do, you know, there is not an element of anti-Muslim sentiment in it. Fact is, it primarily rescues the Waqf Act from the spurious legislation brought about by the Waqf Act of 1995, you know, which gave unbridled powers to the Waqf Board to acquire, to stake claim, and to acquire any property. And the tribunal also acted in an extremely lopsided manner. This was further, you know, worsened by the amendment of 2013, when even a non-Muslim could contribute to the Waqf Board. These amendments are being undone, besides, you know, a whole lot of reforms which were pending, some of which were also recommended by the Sachar Committee in 2006. So what is wrong in it? It is the usual propaganda of the opposition to label every reform that the BJP brings as anti-Muslim, which is not the case over here. You know, fact is that the Waqf Board has a history of usurping land not belonging to them. That includes I'm forgetting the name, in Tamil Nadu, a village which has a 1500-year-old temple, a village in Haryana which has a 400-year-old Gurudwara, which includes a village in Kerala which has an equally old, church. So all of these require the Waqf Board to also have members from other communities other than the Muslims. So
your time's up. You had 2 minutes. I want to go to Dr. Hussain. Dr. Hussain, where is the Congress's stand in all of this? I'm going to go back to the BJP spokesperson, because what's interesting in all of this is, why is it happening with Bihar being the epicenter of it? And it's quite clear it's the Bihar elections. But the Congress really hasn't made their stand clear on where it stands on the Waqf Board bill, especially the amendment bill, which the government wants to table.
See, Congress party is very clear. Congress party took a position when the bill was introduced in 2024 in Lok Sabha. Congress party feels that it's a very unfair law. It feels that it's a targeted legislation. It feels that the bill denies the multi-religious character of our society by divisive act. It dilutes and diminishes constitutional provisions that guarantee equal rights and protections to all citizens regardless of their religion. It believes that this bill is to demonize minority communities by spreading false propaganda and creating prejudice. There are lots of provisions in this bill which weakens the Waqf institutions as it was been there for long years. So the entire target of this bill is to demonize the communities, spread false propaganda, weaken the Waqf structure, weaken the administration of the Waqf, and also to tell that this is what we can do to the minority communities in our country. This, if we can't change the constitution, we will definitely change the provisions that keeps the diversities alive in our country. This is what it is. So it is very clear that JPC was constituted on the demand of the opposition parties, but in JPC, of which I was also a member, there would have been more detailed discussion. The stakeholders, most serious stakeholders should have been called. People, those who are not stakeholders, organizations, they have nothing to do with Waqf were called. And finally, the bill, the JPC report was bulldozed. It was given in the night and morning. It was adopted, and then the main feature of any JPC would be the clause by clause consideration.
All right, I'm going to go back, but I'm going to begin with you this time.
The bill. That was not done.
Dr. Hussain, I'm going to begin with you, and I asked you a question, which I will also, now bring in your BJP spokesperson in it. But first up, Dr. Hussain, was there tacit support today by the Congress to the All India Muslim Personal Law Board that held protest, mainly in the state of Bihar?
See, whichever organizations have been organizing protests on the Waqf issues, congressmen locally or people, those have been invited by those organizations, have gone and spoken there. But the Congress party has opposed the Waqf bill in 2024 when it was introduced in the Lok Sabha, and it has opposed its members in JPC have opposed the draconian law in the JPC as well.
All right, okay, Tuhin Sinha, while, the argument is, and many would suggest that it is correct to a limit where you say that the Waqf bill is there to stem land mafia, but having said that, it can also be read as highly discriminatory against one religion, and especially where you have trusts of other religions who are going to continue to hold their property. So why should not it be seen under the lens of being discriminatory and trying to only target a particular religion?
Well, on the contrary, one of the important amendments is to enhance the representation of the Waqf board and to include, Muslims from the backward communities also.
And also to include, also to have in the Waqf board a Hindu member. Now, why is that?
So I explained you that right at the start, because, most of the properties which have been usurped or claimed have belonged to other religions. So you need to have representatives from those religions to also contradict and to rebut the claims made by the Waqf board. And that includes, I was mentioning about this village, Tiruchentarai, in Tamil Nadu, where a 1500-year-old temple has existed, and the Waqf board claimed ownership over that entire village. That applies to many other Hindu lands, but the Muslim community, and especially the poor among the Muslim community, have equally, been a victim of the aggrandizement habits of the Waqf board, which the Congress party refuses to acknowledge, because Congress party essentially, its sympathies lies with
a certain Sinha, as I bring in Dr. Hussain into this conversation, the next question I'd like to ask you is the BJP of the same opinion of an equal representation of other religions in Hindu trust boards?
No, there is a difference. No Hindu trust board is acquiring land belonging to different communities. You give me an example. If the management of a temple and land ownership rights are completely two different things. So you cannot compare it with the management of the Tirupati temple or any other temple, because this was clearly about land ownership, which by default gave birth to a malified land mafia, which had to be curtailed. So please understand, there is a very clear difference over here. No Hindu temple management gets into acquiring land of other communities across the country.
Dr. Nasir Hussain, you want to come in on that as a counter? Go ahead, sir.
See, first of all, the example that is being given of the Tamil Nadu village, the Waqf board did not claim that it is a Waqf land. In fact, the Waqf board said it is not a Waqf land. This was a wrong entry that was done by a government revenue official. Let me put this record straight. This was very clearly a mistake done by the revenue official at the lower level. It was not declared by the Waqf board. This is the kind of propaganda they have unleashed on Waqf board. Number one. Two, no. If you can give even one example where the Waqf board has claimed lands which is not its own land. Waqf board has only claimed those lands which have been encroached. And the encroacher can be from any community. Encroacher can be a Muslim, can be a Hindu, can be a Sikh, can be a Christian, can be government. Encroacher can be anybody. Only those land has been claimed, and there's no power for Waqf board to go and register any land as its own land. Only the court can decide, only the revenue officials can decide. Once the Waqf board finds that there are relevant papers of particular land being the Waqf land, they will send it to the district collector. They will send it to the district revenue authority.
On a larger debate,
authorities,
right?
Just hold on, ma'am. The revenue authorities will go through all the procedures of registering a property as they do it to anybody in this country. So this argument that the Waqf land is claiming other land, hence we are putting non-Muslims into a Muslim institution is something false. And every Hindu religious act, every endowment act in every state, every Muzrai department, SGPC and any Christian authority, everyone says that there can be the member or the official should be from that religion itself. It is very, very clear.
Okay.
This claim.
Okay, but Dr. Hussain, on a larger point, before I go back to the BJP spokesperson, I want to ask you this question, sir. Somewhere down the line, is there at least an agreement that there was a land mafia as well associated with the Waqf board, or are you completely in denial of that? That it was exploited at times?
What land mafia is there? What are the cases?
So there are plenty of cases where Waqf land has come into contention, especially, you and I both know there have been plenty of cases. There are a lot of, right now, legal arguments in court being made on the same.
Ma'am, there are plenty of cases where the Waqf land has been encroached. They have been encroached by Muslims largely. They have been encroached by government. They have been encroached by some people belonging to other communities also. By knowingly, unknowingly, they have been staying on those lands for years. As they stay on any government land, thinking that it's a government land, they have stayed there. And if it is a Waqf land, obviously the Waqf board in that particular state will claim that land. But for that, they should have relevant papers.
But Dr. Hussain, let me pose it like this.
Go through all the procedures that the revenue department does.
Before I bring in Tuhin Sinha, let me pose the, let me ask you in this regard. Because of the kind of history that we had, which has largely been Mughal run, and post that, would you reckon that maybe that there was a culture where the Waqf has acquired large amounts of land and there needs to be a possible audit in some areas?
Madam, it is not just the Mughal rule. There have been dynasties which have been ruled by Muslims for more than 1,000 years.
Fair point.
How does that have to come into picture now? If there is an Waqf land, if it has been donated by X, Y, Z, or it has been given by the government at different times, and if the records are there, and if it is there in usage for a long time, and if it has been registered by the Waqf property by going through all the procedures after 1947, so it will be Waqf land.
Okay.
Why do you want to dig into history now? Why do you want to dig into history? Do you think all these governments in different states, whether it is belonging to Congress, whether belonging to BJP or Janata Dal or any other regional party in the states, and also different parties in the center, have they been fools to register all these properties and put on the national portal that is there?
All right, so Tuhin Sinha, that's where the question stems from. Because the BJP wants to fan an anti-Muslim rhetoric. The Waqf Amendment Bill is the latest tool in the same theory.
Preeti, the whole concept of Waqf should have become obsolete after the partition of the country in 1947. And that is primarily why the constitution has no reference, no mention of it. But it was the vote bank politics of the Congress party which had introduced the Waqf Act in 1954. A lot of blunders have subsequently been added with the Waqf Act of 1995 and the subsequent amendment of 2013, which need to be corrected. This is a bold government which will go all the way to make those corrections so that the future of this country does not suffer.
But Tuhin Sinha, you might say this is a bold government, but the messaging can also be a discriminatory government which is looking to override the constitution.
On the contrary, that is for you to decide. Some of the journalists may consider it discriminatory, but a major part of the media considers
it's not the media, sir.
The reason why BJP is repeatedly being voted back to power is because the people realize that this is correction of historical wrongs which have been repeatedly taken.
All right, I want to go in for last comments right now.
Allow me to complete just 1 second. Mr. Hussain seems to be living in denial. He's saying there are no instances of, aggrandizement. Just last year, you could recall 1,200 acres of farmers' land were claimed by the Waqf Board in Karnataka. And one of the ministers, Zamir Khan, was, showed extra alacrity in facilitating that. And today he's saying that, there are no instances.
I'm gonna come back. Mr. Sinha, the fact is, what's really happened is when you say that this is a figment of only certain part of the media, no, it's not. We're just voicing the concerns of the people, and the possibility is also that maybe, some of the BJP spokesperson are only used to a particular line of engagement and questioning. And therefore, then you get into how, with what you just said. But I'm going to leave it at that. Last, questions there. Final points, Dr. Hussain. With what you see right now, how much does this have to do with the Bihar election? Suddenly the protests are coming up, stemming in Bihar. You're trying to build pressure on the BJP to not introduce this bill this session or the monsoon session, stall on it, especially make it a political point for Bihar elections.
See, I'll tell you something. Let me first give a rebuttal to the BJP spokesperson. If he says that it doesn't find any space in the constitution of our country, then let him go and read what is Article 25, Article 26 and what Article 29. If he says that Waqf board shouldn't be there, then he should also go and do away with the endowment board, with the Musrai department, with the different religious act that has been there in Orissa, in Telangana, in Karnataka, in Tamil Nadu, in Bihar, in Jharkhand. Everywhere the acts are there. The constitution of our country clearly gives rights to people of all religions to govern and administrate their own religious properties. If the Prime Minister, who said some days back that it doesn't find space in the Constitution, then why is he amending it? He should do away with this. He shouldn't be amending this. If the BJP spokesperson and his party feels that there is no space, then they should remove endowment acts. Then they should remove Musrai departments.
Then they should do all this I need to get into Tuhin Sinha back.
Then they should say they'll
Tuhin Sinha, 17% is the population of Muslims in the state of Bihar. 7% was what your ally Nitish Kumar got in 2020. 7% of the 17%, and couple of, a percent or two went to LJP. The allies, it's important that you don't create an anti-Muslim sentiment because they need that vote. Is the BJP going to pick ally appeasement over the Waqf Bill is the question.
Two things. So at least as of today, both the allies you have mentioned have shown full support for the bill, the Waqf Amendment Act.
Not really. The JDU hasn't really the JDU hasn't made it clear on where they stand on this, sir.
Well, it's been 6 months and there has been not an iota of opposition. Everybody need not have a stand. So if they are not opposing it, if they don't have a ground to oppose it, that obviously means that they are supporting it. Number two, you have seen that the BJP walks the talk. जब हम एक बार commitment कर देते हैं तो खुद की भी नहीं सुनते हैं. So it's the Amendment Act is something which is bound to see the light of the day.
Okay. All right. Let's see how that how that pans out. I appreciate both you gentlemen for joining us. Thank you there.